From where I sit at the United Nations Children's Fund, it seems to me that the world has never been in as bad a state as it is now. For instance, there are 1 billion destitute people in the world today. Of these, some 500 million children go to bed hungry every night. In Africa alone, there are some 17 million refugees, many of them refugees from life within their borders, others who have crossed their borders in order to find relief from suffering. There are many charitable institutions around the world who are aware of this problem and are trying to do something about it. One of them is the Subud Brotherhood International Foundation, which is an outgrowth of a spiritual movement called Subud, and I'm one of them. In the Subud Brotherhood, through our spiritual experience, we have understood that there are 2 dimensions to charity. One is the outer dimension, which is doing charity. The other is the inner dimension of being charitable. The distinction is that when one is being charitable, one does not patronize the people one is trying to help. Instead, it is a sense of brotherhood, of people trying to share each other's understanding and suffering. The Subud Brotherhood International Foundation is a growing organization, and in this film, you will see the beginnings of some of our efforts to give this new approach to charity substance and reality.
Jakarta, Indonesia is a city of 6 million, and it's growing fast. Among the thousands of new people who stream into the city every month come hundreds of homeless boys. These boys leave the countryside because their parents can't feed them and their villages can't give them work. They arrive illegally and live in shanty towns which have grown up beside the public markets. They sleep in alleys or under scraps of wood. They beg, scrounge and steal. And they fall prey to police harassment, malnutrition and early death. SBIF began its work in Indonesia by helping these boys, by enabling them to earn money doing simple jobs like carrying bags for shoppers or by shining shoes. SBIF works in Indonesia through the Yayasan Usaha Mulia, the Foundation for Noble Work, or YUM for short. YUM is typical of SBIF's umbrella organizations founded and run by people on the spot, who live in the country, know its needs, and know what kind of help grows. 2 of YUM's projects, the Market Boys and the Shoeshine Boys, bring boys from the slums to YUM centers to give them shoeshine boxes, lessons in reading and writing, and to give them the chance to grow self-sufficiency and self-respect. This YUM center in downtown Jakarta houses 2 projects. First, it's a day center for the Shoeshine Boys. Here they learn survival skills, reading, writing, and self-defense. Life on the streets is hard for the poorest of the poor. The boys need this training as much as the good meals they get. When they grow older, they learn trades, mechanics, metalwork. One of the teachers here says, the strength of these boys lies in the growth of their faith. With a strong inner faith, they can survive terrible hardships without succumbing to despair. If they despair, they get sick and die. It's as simple as that. The second project housed here is the Financial Adoption Program. Individuals, usually from overseas, pay money to support or adopt a child. Much of this money comes through Terre des Hommes, a Dutch charity that works closely with Yum. 10 social workers follow the growth of 1,000 children and their families and give them the continuity of complete care. If anyone is sick, they take them to Yum's downtown medical center for treatment paid for by the program's insurance scheme. The center is open 6 days a week. 2 doctors, 2 medical assistants, and several nurses treat 80 to 100 people a day. The center is sandwiched in between a middle-class area and a shanty town. Patients have started coming from the wealthier areas and can pay normal fees. This helps subsidize treatment for the very poor. The poor must also pay something, even if it's only a few cents. Here in Jakarta, not to pay for treatment means the treatment isn't worth having. The volunteer doctors work wonders with simple facilities in cramped conditions. But, as one put it, we could do much more. The need is so great. We have the personnel. We want to grow. We would really like to build a place for mothers to give birth in. Babies here are usually born at home in unhygienic conditions. The death rate for mothers and infants is appallingly high. The medical center also operates a mobile clinic. 6 days a week, it goes out to the worst areas of Jakarta and sets up shop at regular times and places. Underneath a bridge, where people work and gather to escape the glare, is a good spot for crowds to wait for their turn to be treated. Most of these people have no access to medical help of any kind, except for this clinic. The regularity of the clinic visits means treatment can be followed up and emergency patients can be taken back to the center for more care. The mobile clinic, the medical center, these and other Yum projects are coordinated from SBIF's office in the S. Wijoyo Center in Jakarta. The office space has been donated to Yum and SBIF by the Subud members who recently completed building this office block. In the future, profits from this building will go to charity. This is one reason why the center was built, to create an enterprise that helps those in need regain their health. Gain skills to work in the world, stand on their own feet, and start their own enterprises. In this way, the poor can grow naturally out of the conditions that shackle them. These are the conditions one slum family was living in before they came into contact with another Yum project, the Market Boys. The father, seen here, asked if his 2 little daughters could be accepted for care in the Market Boys residential center on the outskirts of Jakarta. After an interview with 2 of the project's social workers, the Market Boys became Market Girls as well, and 2 newcomers were to be welcomed to Rumahku. Rumahku is the name of the center. It means my home, and that is not the least of the gifts the project provides. A sense of being part of a family in a house you can call your own. The house doubles as school and living quarters. Intensive individual care characterizes work here. While the Shoeshine Boy project handles hundreds of boys several days a week, Rumahku concentrates on 20 or 30 at a time and round the clock. This simple ceremony and the traditional feast of yellow rice mark the graduation of 2 boys from Rumahku. They've been here about 8 months, and they're ready to go back to Grinting, their village. This is the project's real aim, to prepare the boys to go back to live, work, and help in their village, and to prepare their village to receive them home. Most of the children in one Jakarta slum, and almost all the kids at Rumahku, come from the same village, Grinting. Grinting suffers from bad soil and heavily salinated water. The project has 2 village social workers, like the one who will accompany the boys home, who work with the boys, their families, and the village elders to run a community development project that plants vegetables, trains nutrition workers, and is searching for fresh water sources. If you go on down this road a ways, turn left, and travel a mile or more, you'll come to another Yum project, Pamulang. Pamulang resident nurses travel from village to village offering medical aid. The villages are full of people suffering from tuberculosis, skin disease, and malnutrition. Patients who need extended medical care are brought back to the hospital. The hospital has 36 beds, a polyclinic and a small dispensary. The whole setup is clean and simple, with areas set aside for meetings and training. But Pamulang is more than simply a medical center. Pamulang is growing. 2 hectares of land are being developed. The soil is red Javanese earth and is good for growing tropical fruit and vegetables. These boys working the fields used to be shoeshine boys. They've grown up and live in Pamulang now to continue their vocational training and work together in budding enterprises. This is the first of several workshops built for them. This one is for woodworking. There's another one for metalworking. Here, an expert carver from North Java teaches the boys carpentry skills and the art of fine carving. On the far side of the land, down by the lake, is a structure built, like all the buildings at Pamulang, by the people who live there. This one is thatch and bamboo, and it's a brick factory. Ex-shoeshine boys and unemployed men from the locality learn to mix, press, and carve concrete blocks, which are sold on the open market. Pamulang, like all Yum's projects, benefits from the combination of local experts and those who come from overseas to live and work in Indonesia for long periods, sharing their skills, like this American agriculturalist. A British doctor resident in Indonesia gives generously of his time to the project, but on public days at the clinic, it's usually the local volunteer doctors who see the hundreds who come from miles around to take advantage of the services this project provides. Pamulang points out clearly the SBIF Yum approach to help. It shows how free or partially subsidized hospital and welfare services for the very poor can grow to be partially self-supporting by means of small enterprises in harmony with the wishes and traditions of the local people. Two hours' drive from Pamulang, up in the hill country, is Yum's Chipanas project. This center revolves around a 30-bed recuperation and rehabilitation facility where tuberculosis patients are treated and trained in new skills so that they can go back to live useful lives in their villages when they're cured. Patients who are well enough do piecework, making envelopes, putting electronic components together, or just working around the center. And it is a delightful place to work in. Good mountain air, beautiful views of the countryside. The buildings are surrounded by running water. Fish tanks are stocked with carp and goldfish, which are caught, weighed, and sold every 4 months. Another enterprise is raising chickens for eggs. And there is milk, 70 liters a day from a growing herd of more than 15 cows. Flowers and vegetables are grown too. The project also has a polyclinic where local farmers and their families can get treatment for a nominal fee, maybe a cabbage or two. Patients come to the center for many reasons. Many who cannot get any better in Jakarta are sent here where the cool air is good for them. The center has a men's ward and a woman's ward, and a separate building for non-tubercular patients. Across the rice paddies from the Chipana Center is Yum's Children's Village. It's a cluster of 9 bamboo and red tile houses. The first house is a little prayer house, where these girls have just come back from. 7 more houses are homes for 8 boys or girls, and for a house mother who cooks for them, scolds them, loves them, and sees that her children learn all the proper things. The 9th house is the schoolroom over the fish pond. All the children go to the village school during the day, but there's always more to learn about nutrition, fertilizers, sewing, simple electronics, all kinds of things to help them make their way in life when they grow up. The 54 orphans living here now are bright-eyed and healthy. It's hard to believe that most of them were beggars, waifs and strays from Jakarta's steamy slums. The village, they hear, is going to grow, to be expanded to care for 100 children, and that means more houses, more facilities, and more songs. The work of the Subud Brotherhood International Foundation in Indonesia is representative of its work all over